I've got something really exciting to share, and it's a new trucker role in Eco that specializes in transportation and has the potential to work as a kind of additional skill in the game. And I'm not talking about simple transportation of your goods to and from your store. I'm talking about a trucker, a true dedicated activity in the server. I'm going to show you the very simple mechanism of how to set it up and the potential it can hold for your gameplay right now. A robust economy is a huge part of Eco, and so much of that revolves around buying and selling things between stores. But those products and materials won't get between stores by themselves. It requires transportation. Without some sort of transport, prices, availability, location to other stores, none of it matters. You have to move items from one store to the next. Without it, there is no exchange of money, and there is no economy. So, with this action in the game being so critical to everything, I've decided to really give it some love this season on DadSpeed and try to create improvements in this transportation activity. But I didn't want to just motivate a citizen going out and buying materials they need for their own skill, or taking the product they just produced and driving that somewhere to sell it. I wanted to create a kind of trucker role in the game, with a true trucker being someone that moves other people's goods around and having nothing to do with their own. It would be a person that could make an entire career out of just trucking other people's goods around. A completely independent and self-sustaining activity that also has the option of bringing in the very cool building and construction gameplay that everybody wants and everybody enjoys in a builder-crafter game like Eco. Crazy, right? Like, how does building stuff play into trucking? I'm going to tell you about that, but we also need to understand the common problems to overcome with this trucker scheme. A trucker or transporter activity in most games relies on a person either getting paid some amount for the movement of goods, or buying goods at a slightly lower cost and selling them elsewhere at places buying them for a slightly higher price, typically in places of high demand. On this server I play on, the standard for all players is to have this delta in price between stores. People buying products are encouraged to post a slightly higher buying price at their store than someone else's selling price. This replicates what is usually baked into game logic and AI-run stores. But this player-based delta is hard to enforce in Eco, and doesn't make economic sense to most folks as to why you would buy something at a higher price when you can just pick it up from someone else for cheaper. This counterintuitive pricing strategy also isn't present in most other Eco servers. People usually just set buy prices for whatever the selling price is at other people's stores. So creating that price difference to support trucking is one issue. The second issue is that any straight government payment or bonus you pay to a transporter person to either buy or sell a product to overcome that possible absence of a non-intuitive price difference can also be used by any person buying or selling their own mats or products, which takes away transport opportunities for an independent trucker. You get that? If people with skills who produce products are also driving to other stores to sell their own product, and then while out buying all the materials they need and driving those back home, then there's little product on the market for a third-party individual to use for their trucking career. So it's that opportunity that also needs to be stimulated. This federal government influence system I'm going to talk about takes care of all that. Not only does it create an incentive for independent trucking that may not be present in pricing, but ensures enough profit for a viable career and encourages the availability of more product on the market for the trucker. This is how it works. It starts with a straight 3% subsidy payment via law to citizens who buy something from a store. Now, for clarity in this explanation, I'm going to make a clear distinction in terms for you. When I talk about a citizen, I'm talking about the person who is out visiting a store to either buy or sell something. And when I say store owner, it's exactly that. It's the person who owns the store and is either buying or selling items out of their store. With the 3% bonus in place, it assures that the trucker will make at least some profit off any item, even if the buy and sell prices on a given item between the stores is the same. So it solves that problem. But by itself, it also makes the other problem of not having enough transport opportunities potentially worse by incentivizing someone to self-transport and sell their own goods. So this is how you solve that problem without touching the transport payment. By law, you also provide a second payment, but this time it's to the store owner and gives them something like a 4% subsidy payment on any item that is bought or sold from their store. This offsets the increased draw created with the citizen payment when a store owner wants to go sell their own product, and provides the store owner incentive to buy their mats at their store, rather than driving out somewhere to go self-supply. You could also make a case that it's just easier to stay at your store and let the citizen do the transportation, now that the trucker's getting a bonus, and the store owner incentive to self-supply their mats is neutralized. So now comes the part of making the trucker role a truly independent activity that can stand on its own and separates it further from any other player on the server. For a citizen that wants to focus more on transportation, they only take one skill, and with that, get a 6% citizen bonus when buying from a store, double what everyone else gets, making it so a player can still dabble in some production, but can offset any reduced income with the all-important transportation profit. For the player that wants to go truly all in on this transportation activity and decides to take no skills at all, a whopping 12% bonus is paid to those citizens anytime they buy an item at a store. That is typically equal to or better than the average profit margin a person gets producing and selling goods. And they have the virtual full array of all products to transport, not just a small subset from their own production. For a little extra spice, that zero-skill, fully dedicated trucker is given the title of Master Transporter as a demographic badge of honor. The single-skill person also gets a little perk and is dubbed a trucker as their demographic title. There is the case where a store owner producing goods wants to unload some product and make room in their stockpiles so they can make more product. They still can, and it's okay. A store owner now has more strategic gameplay options where they can either spend some effort self-transporting and get the citizen payment, or be a little patient and let a trucker deliver their goods and get the store owner payment. Now, this next part you don't have to do for everything to work, but to make it even a little more strategic for the store owner, I made the store owner buy and sell payment not in the global currency, but in a special land token currency that can be cashed in to buy properties and get land claims. This further separates the incentives and creates strategic options, because on our server, the only way to purchase a property left behind by an abandoned player is by using this second land token currency, which further incentivizes people to buy and sell things out of their store rather than going out and self-transporting their own goods. And these land tokens for abandoned properties help clear these properties in an organic fashion, rather than an administrative magic wand. If people don't want the land, they can just resell the land claims for the global currency. Everyone on the server now has more choices, and they're not routed into one clear dominant action. But this trucker role and setup isn't over. There's more. The trucker could go completely into this career and create a warehousing and transfer station setup. A trucker could set up a warehouse depot or depots, perhaps scattered around the world in different strategic areas, and set up a store that buys some of the most commonly traded items. With this intermediate stockpiling of some goods, it allows the trucker to let their store passively gain the store owner payment, whether it be global currency or the land credits, and also do their normal trucking moneymaker whenever they log back. The trucker now has several options as well. They could just let the store passively buy items to get the store owner buying bonus, then periodically clear out their warehouse and go sell their goods. Or they could go out and buy goods as a trucker and get the citizen buy bonus, deliver it to their store, and then just wait until someone comes to their store and buys it to get the store owner bonus. This is the best moneymaker for the trucker, as they're getting some payment from both the citizen buy and the store owner sell incentives. But it does have the characteristic where they may have to wait for a while for a product to sell and clear out their warehouse space. Also, the truly lazy entrepreneur could set up their warehouse that buys and sells something at the exact same price and just wait.
You're saying I should just sit down, shut up, and wait.
It's not really a money-making scheme based on the difference in buy and sell prices, but if their stores are conveniently placed, the sheer factor of convenience for a citizen being able to get an item could lead some folks to visit their store and either buy or sell, giving them that small bit of passive store owner income. In that respect, it's a little similar to the new 9.6 shop cart that uses that concept of convenient placement as its claim to fame. This trucker career and the precise government incentive payout amounts will be monitored and adjusted, because any government eco program needs some time to run, and I have yet to see any scheme that isn't without its drawbacks or exploits. I may even add and provide additional bonuses for becoming more dedicated to that activity. But this initial construct seems to have some merit. There's also all kinds of other tax and rebate things happening on the server that potentially influence this trucker scheme, but I needed to talk about the trucker role in isolation, so you'd have the clearest view of how to incorporate this into your server's laws. The key, though, was utilizing the ability to specify the store owner as the recipient of store-based payment to separate it from the normal and default citizen-based payments. Maybe this video has helped stimulate even better ideas on your server and turns this critical role of transportation into something special. But I hope you enjoyed and got something out of this one enough to smash that like and subscribe button. Take care, and I'll be talking to you later.